Can someone please confirm that my voice is carrying right? Am I
Yes,
audible?
sir. Your voice is clear, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
All right. Very good morning, and just give me a minute. Let me convert this into a speaker. Okay. Once again, can you please confirm that I'm both visible as well as audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible and visible.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. Now we come to the most important aspect of our fight. One of the statements which I've always been making is that getting admission is not a challenge because we have enough number of colleges in the US. The greatest challenge is the visa side of it. Now, post the visa, of course, I will also be talking about one more challenge, that is the immigration interview. But before we go into the immigration interview, we first have to get the visa, and that is the fight all about. Now, I have certain points which I would like to cover today, which is what I have listed it down. I'll go step by step. There are going to be a lot of numbers that you would also have to take into account, and this is going to be highly personalized because each one of you probably will fund it in a way that you are more comfortable with. So in case there is any thing that you have not understood, please feel free to discuss with me. I will also be having a one-to-one session with each one of you. But one of the points that I hope you appreciate is that there are certain things that all of you should know. And it is not possible for me to sit with each one of you individually and then explain these things. So I am going to request all of you to please see to it that any session that I'm conducting, and I will be conducting a few more sessions going forward, you would attend that session so that I'm not forced to repeat it as and when your parents or you have a doubt on that regard. Now, just give me a minute, please.
Sir, you are in mute.
I don't know how it becomes automatically muted. All right. The point that you need to understand is if you've spoken to anyone whose visa
Sir, we
has ever.
can't hear you.
I'm not audible?
Yeah, now you are audible, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. If you have spoken to anyone whose visa has been rejected, you will realize the fact that the pain that comes along with that is quite tremendous. Especially so because now the US is following the 352-day rule, whereby if your visa is rejected once, you are not allowed to, apply for a visa slot before 352 days of your previous rejection, which basically means that you are going to lose out the whole year. But the pain does not stop just there. I'm sure if in case your visa is rejected, you probably would like to consider a backup country. But the fact of the matter is when you apply to another country's visa, they do take into cognizant the fact that your visa has been rejected in one country, and that also plays a role in their decision making. Bottom line, visa rejection is a bad news. That is something that we need to try to avoid. For that 2 minutes or 3 minutes of the interview that you're going to face, during which the decision will be taken, you need to see to it that you're practicing tremendously well. I'll be sitting with each one of you to identify your red flags, helping you come up with answers in questions that could be challenging for you for various reasons. And we will also be having a mock interview. That is assistance that we at Condira will be providing. But success or failure, the pleasure or the pain is only yours. And that is the reason why, going back to the rule which I've always said, be selfish. Please see to it that you're practicing as much as possible to see to it that the result is only one. Visa for you and a chance for you to start your life afresh in the US. Now, there is one more element that you need to understand. Don't get perturbed if it so happens that you have not got admission so far. Do bear in mind, we are still in early days. I have always been pushing many of you people. The reason I have been pushing you is simply because we can now take each decision in a much more relaxed way. And you'll also notice that this will also result in substantial amount of saving, may that be in terms of booking of flight tickets or getting yourself an accommodation, or even a chance of you to apply for part-time jobs even before you fly out of India. But in case you have started a bit late, in case it has so happened that you have just started applying or not got a result, don't get perturbed. We still have 2 more months to continue the fight. But for all of you who do have some admit, all right, may not be in the college of your choice, I'm going to strongly recommend, let's take advantage of the fact that we started early and let's go forward. I'm not joking when I say this. I'm a fantastic expert in this area. I know how to take advantage of the rules because I'm aware of them. And you are my students, so I'm going to be guiding you in such a process so that you can attempt to save money, because saving of money is very essential. There are a lot of leakages that happen in terms of money. You will be under, you'll be signing quite a few checks. You will be spending substantial amount of money even before you land up in the US. But it makes sense for us to try to start saving here itself and continue with the habit when you are in the US. So let's quickly look at the agenda point number 1. The first agenda point I have is when to expect the results. The fact is, colleges have already started giving the results. Many colleges have already given the first round of results. I am also in touch with the colleges. I make it a point to review each of your profiles every 2 days. See to it that I'm following it with the college and pushing them to give the results. Now, but you also have to understand how the whole result process works. Few of you might have noticed the fact that a friend of yours who probably has applied has gotten admit in spite of the fact that he applied before you or after you. Why does it happen? The reasoning is very simple. There are 2 types of colleges. Certain colleges, and in fact most of them, have what we call as a rolling admission. So in case they find a profile which is inciting enough, they immediately give the admit. At the same time, if they find a profile not good at all, they immediately give the rejection. But majority of the profiles, they hold back because they want to wait for other applicants who are now thinking of applying to apply, so that they could review their profile too before taking the decision on the rest of the seats. So in case you have not received a result so far, it only means you are still in contention, you are still in running. There are certain other colleges where they have a strict deadline. Once the deadline is done, it's only after that they review, and then they start giving the results in batches. So you might not have come in the first batch, you'll probably come in the second batch. So don't fret about it. We are still only in the middle of the February. We have sufficient time. Now let's talk about the second scenario. You have an admit in a college, but that is not your most preferred college. In such a case, I'm going to strongly recommend you people to start thinking forward. The reality is the biggest challenge is not just succeeding in the visa interview. Biggest challenge is also getting a visa slot. The fact is now the visa slots are open. Few of our students have already booked the visa slots. And the beauty is the demand is still not picked up, which means quite a few of them have actually booked on their own without the need of us to actually pay for or depend on a visa, the ticket, visa appointment agents. So it helps to have the ability to book a visa slot in your hand. This is where I'm going to rely on the rule which I told you in my previous session. And I really hope you have either attended it or have seen it when sent in a recorded mode. The rule says that you can block a visa slot as long as you have an I-20 in hand. Now, let us say your interest is in college A, but it so happens that A is still under consideration. You do not know the result, but it so happens that you have college B, which has given you the admit. My recommendation is very simple. We have now reached a stage where you should probably go ahead and accept the admission of B. Now, accepting the admission of B does not mean you're going to go to B. Accepting the admission of B means you apply for I-20. Once you get the I-20, block the visa slot with the college B. Remember, B is not the college of your preference. Now, once, let us say you book the visa slot for May the 14th. Now, it is later what happens is somewhere between now and May the 14th, you get the admission for college A, which is the college of your choice, and then you subsequently get I-20 as well. Now, the rule says 2 days before your visa interview and till the date of your biometric, you can switch the college. So what does it mean? It means that even though you booked the visa slot with college B, you will be attending the visa interview for college A. Now that is very, very sensible point to do. Now, where does the complication come in? Complication comes in two situations. One, the college that you got is very low in order. If college is very low in order, then it's better not to highlight it to the visa people. Because remember, though visa people can get this data, they will not have it in front of them outrightly. However, if you have blocked the visa slot with B and attending the interview with A, the VO will know of both A and B in front. So first condition is if the college is too low, we will probably wait for some more time. But the second condition is where money is involved. It is quite likely that college B is asking you for some deposit. My point is very simple. If the deposit is under $500, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Go ahead, spend that $500. Get the I-20, block the visa slot. Now the beauty is once you block the visa slot and if everything goes well and there's a luck and the support of God, it is likely that you will get visa. And the beauty is once you get the visa, then you can immediately book a flight ticket. Now, if you are going to book a flight ticket as early as, let us say, May, then you will get a flight ticket at a price which is quite substantially lower than what you would otherwise do so by waiting and getting it in, let's say, June. So this $500 extent we can comfortably recoup later. And getting the visa will also help you plan your accommodation, help you fight for your part-time jobs. So all that fight can be commenced. And that is the reason I'm strongly recommending you to try to book the visa slot for a date as early as it's possible. Now, what happens if you, let's look at the third scenario. You already have an I-20 of the college of your choice. If that is the case, go ahead, book the visa slot and book it as early as possible. And even if it's April, it's okay. This is where you need to know one more rule. It is not necessary for you to have finished your undergraduation on the day of your visa interview. It is not necessary that you need to carry your degree certificate or your PCC. It is not necessary. The earlier you get the visa, the better it is. US government has changed the rule whereby now you are allowed to get the visa 12 months before you fly out, which is 12 months before your start of the program, which is something that you have the right to do. Then why not take benefit of the same? So these three issues that you need to be aware of. Now, in point number 3, I'm going to also talk about the reimbursement condition. Now, let's go back to the scenario of 2. You have an admission in B, which is not the college of your choice. And it so happens that your college of choice is A, and you have paid $500 as a deposit. Now, you're attending the visa interview with A. Will you get the 500? Answer is no. Now the rule basically says reimbursement of deposit will happen only when the visa is rejected. Now this is a rule followed by 99% of the colleges. If the visa is rejected, whatever amount you have deposited will be reimbursed to the whole. Of late, I have seen one or two colleges talk about a scenario of non-refundable deposit, which we can ignore because, as I said, 99% of the colleges will be reimbursing the amount. But in the scenario where you have booked the visa slot for B and then attending for A, whatever deposit you might have given will be a loss. But that, as I said, you should be able to recoup later. Now, having covered these first 3 points, I'm now coming to the 4th point. You have multiple choices. You have multiple colleges in hand. This is where now you need to show your maturity in selecting the college which is right for you. Why do I say this? Because I have many cases of people coming together as friends, all right, applying for colleges which are same with an aim that we will go together. And for me, that is stupidity. The reason I say that is stupidity is because your profiles might be different. It's quite likely that your abilities might be different. So don't worry too much about friends going together. Let me assure you, to whichever college you are going to go, there are going to be other students from Visakhapatnam and all likeliness from Kondura itself who would be going. So you can always form your new gang, new set of friends and go there. Please choose the college which is right for you, not a college necessarily that has been selected by your friend is right for you and vice versa. Now, how should I select the college? From day number 1, if you have sat with me for the shortlisting college, I've always said location is the most important parameter. And I stick to that. A top college in Bihar has no value. A mediocre college in Bengaluru for technology has all the value. Similarly, when you look at the US, you need to be very careful. Is it a research institution? Is the program more, preparing you for research, or is it preparing you too much for the job? Depending on what the goal is, you need to give the preference. That is a decision that you need to take. Second, you need to be very much aware of competition, both within and without. What does it mean? Let us say you get an admission in a very good college, but you are not confident technically. It so happens that when you land up there, you're going to be surrounded by people who are going to be fabulous, much, much better than you, probably fast at learning. Then believe me, the amount of pressure you will face is going to be tremendous. You need to be truthful to yourself. If I were to give you an analogy in India, I know of many students who have got into IITs, joined IIT because of the brand of IIT, and have not been able to survive in IIT simply because they did not realize that they cannot compete. You need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses too. It's much better to be on the top in an average college than to be in the bottom of a top college. Second, be aware of the competition from outside. Quite often what would happen is, if you look at the US, there are areas of cluster. That is like you have that in the Dallas, Austin area in Texas. You have that in California area, both in the Los Angeles as well as San Francisco. You have in the New England area that includes Boston to the New York. So you will find a lot of colleges in cluster. Your competition is not just coming from your college, it is also coming from outside the college. So when you're fighting for jobs, when you're fighting for internship, please don't think that you're only competing with students of your college. There are too many colleges of the similar kind as yours, then the competition for everything is going to be higher, which is a bad news. Now that is where your background also matters. Most of you people are going to the field of technology and you are Indians. Frankly, to differentiate one Indian to another Indian is very, very tough. So what do companies resort to? They resort to your job experience. So if you do not have, let us say, 2 years of good job experience, a person with a job experience will end up getting a lead in the interview. For the internships, will get a lead in the interview for the jobs too. You will be at a disadvantage. So if you land up in a college where majority of them have job experience while you have either no or limited job experience, you will have a bloody big disadvantage. Similarly, if you end up in a college where there are people around you in various other colleges or with profiles which are better than yours, you will have a big disadvantage. In that situation, it might actually make sense for you to avoid going to such a college. So you need to know your weaknesses as well. It's very easy to say, I will manage it. No, you cannot afford to take a risk because you are in a different country. The other day, I was speaking to one of my students who is in sunny Albany. He went for MS in computer science. He's from Geetham, computer science, a guy with a 9-pointer. And he has been telling me of his psychological pressure of not being able to cope up with the academics. So much so in the first semester, he did not get 3 GPA. And that for me is a very, very dangerous thing. So please don't assume the fact that once you go there, you will be able to manage. There are certain colleges known for curriculum rigor. Of Oregon State University, for example, is quite strongly on academics. So there are certain colleges where we know it's much more relaxed. Which one should you select depends on your strength and your weakness. If you cannot take pressure, then you should necessarily avoid colleges where academic pressure is too much. All right? Because when you go to a foreign country, your mental health is as important as your physical health. Take care of the fees. If you have 2 colleges, A and B, both of them are very similar, then go for a college with lower fees. If you're going for a college with a higher fees, be sure that it's worth spending. Because at the end of the day, whatever you are going to be spending is something that you need to repay. All right. And believe me, you should be trying to repay it by the time your OPT period is over, and the load is going to be substantial. Having said that, don't be penny wise and pound foolish. This is going to be your last degree. So if you believe the fact that it's worth it, then spend. But it's a point where you need to sit down and take a decision. Okay, now I'm going to come to the process of I-20. What is the process of I-20? Let us say you have got an admit. Once you have got an admit, the college will be releasing the I-20. Now, when that is done, there's a rule that the college has to adhere in. The thing is, the college is supposed to check whether the student has the financial ability to fund the education. So for getting I-20, you are supposed to be submitting a document, which is a financial document from a bank, which clearly highlights your ability to fund the education for 9 months. This is a government law. Now, once you give that document, the college will issue the I-20. Now, once the I-20 comes into picture, then you can go for education loan, then you can block the visa slot. This is where one of the very important elements that you need to be working on is the bank statement. Now, this is a classic case of chicken and egg, a case where you need the I-20 to get the bank loan, but the US college says, you need to show me the financial standing before I can issue I-20. That is where in majority of the cases, we depend on external support. We go to an agent and the agent basically gives us the document. So this is one area where there will be a money outflow. Now, this is where I need you to be very careful. Nothing wrong in using an agent because in all probability, we might not have so much funds to show. But when you are going for an agent, please see to it that the agent is bloody credible agent. Why do I say that? There are agents who sometimes come out with a document which is fake and you're not even aware of it. There are other set of agents who actually put the money and the document is authentic enough. Please appreciate anything that is fake, if caught, will result in immediately either the visa rejection or deportation later. Any document that we are submitting to any institution in the US is in the record. Even 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if they detect the fact that you have made an entry into the US fraudulently, the rule is very clear, you will be deported. It's not worth taking the risk. So please see to it that whichever agent you are going for, the document that you get is an authentic document. Now, what is an authentic document? Once the money has been put in the bank and the bank has given a statement, the statement has to be authentic. That does not mean the money has to continue to be in the bank. I will show you in one of the I-20s, the next slide will have that, where it's clearly mentioned that the college has actually called the bank and confirmed that the document is authentic. But it also mentions the fact that later visa officers might also be doing the same thing. So all the college can do is to know whether the document is authentic or not. So document has to be authentic. Please see to it that you are going to an agent who is credible enough. If you have a doubt, then please go ahead and get in touch with Ms. Lakshmi. She will recommend you. Please go to those people whom we or our students have gone in the past, and therefore we understand their credibility. Now comes an exercise for us to play, and this is where you need to be careful. This is an actual I-20. Okay, I am going to be now doing some small exercise. I need you to highlight this. This is the part I was talking about. Funds have been verified from designated school official and could be subject to further verification from counselor office. All right. So do understand, colleges are now checking up. So it's very important that the document is not a fake document. Now, this is what an I-20 is going to look like. I'm going to be giving you certain information in this. You have to understand this. It gives a lot of insights which you should get a handle of, because it also talks about the financial liability you are actually going to face. Now, if you were to look at the whole thing, first thing that you need to understand is once you get the I-20, please confirm your name and other information are right. Now, this is where sometimes what will happen is you will notice your major that is mentioned is not in line with the major that you have applied to. Don't worry too much about it, because though you might have done MS in data science, it's quite possible that the college might have registered that program of MS in data science with the government in some other programs. Okay, why do they do that? Sometimes they resort to it because the other program is a STEM program, therefore they want to have this under the STEM. So if this is not matching with the program that you applied to, do not get perturbed. But wherever you are later while booking the visa slot, etc., if they ask which program have you applied to, should you be naming your real program, the one you actually applied to and got an admission, or the one that is in I-20? The answer is you will name the program that you actually got admission in. Okay. Now, early admission date is this. What is the concept of early admission date and the start of class date? The rule in US says that you are allowed, once you get the visa, you are allowed to fly inside and land up in the US 1 month before your start of classes. So for example, if you look at this I-20, which is of an actual student of ours who has gone to the Southern Methodist University, which is in a leading university in Dallas, the class is to begin on 16 January 2024. That is the start of the class. So the I-20 clearly says that you're not allowed to enter the US 1 month before, which is what is 17th December 2023, which means your flight can land only on 17th December 23 or later. So this information becomes very important for you to plan your flight ticket. If you land up in the US on 16th December, you will not be allowed to go for immigration. It has to be 17th or later. So that is the significance of this part. Now, you will also be noticing the fact that the program end date, depending on which I-20, could be different. Don't get perturbed about it. Sometimes they give shorter duration, sometimes they give longer duration. It gets extended. So nothing to worry about. Now, this is the most important part of it, especially this side of it. For this, I am going to go here. How do we know what is going to be a cost of education? Now, this element is the element that you have submitted. For example, this student, while asking for the I-20, would have mentioned the fact that I am going to be depending on my parents for $42,000. That is this figure. And in my bank, I have $12,000. That is a document that student would have used. Now, notice the fact that the student has given a document for $54,182. Now, this is more than what is actually required for this college. Why does this happen? This is a very common thing. The point that you need to understand is you probably are going to apply for multiple I-20s. For example, look at the scenario. The college of your choice is A. It has not given you the admit. You have got an admit for B. So you're applying for B I-20 now. Later, you will be required to get I-20 for A2. Therefore, you are going to send the financial document to both the colleges. So normally, therefore, what we will do is when we are getting the financial document for B, we will take an amount which is larger of A and B so that the same document can be used for both A and B. And that is the reason in the financial document, we refrain from using the name of the college. Now, in this case, likeliness that larger amount was $54,000. Therefore, the student got a financial document for $54,000. It would probably have been given for some college. Later, it has been given for SMU. So that is the reason why in SMU, you will notice the requirement is $49,804, while the student has shown $54,182. This is not relevant to us. This is the important figure for us. So now let's start doing some calculations. How true is this? What is this? According to the rule of the US government, student to get the I-20 should show funds sufficient for 9 months of education. So this amount of $49,804 is for 9 months of education. This is the minimum amount you're supposed to show for getting your I-20. Now we are going to do two things. One, all right, I have this figure. How much will it actually cost me? What will be the cost for me? Second, using this figure, how are we going to understand how much funds we are going to show during the visa? So I'm going to be therefore breaking this into two calculations. Calculation number one, how much is actually going to cost for you? So I am a student, I got admission in SMU, and this is what I have. So how much is it going to cost me? So if you look at it, there are two elements that are mentioned. Tuition fees is mentioned as, let us say, 72,422. Now the question that you need to understand is, the point that you need to understand is, this is for 2 semesters. 2 semesters basically means 18 credits. So this is the cost that you will be paying for 18 credits. Normally, your master's will be of 30 credits, which means in the second year, you will be paying for 12 credits. First year 18 credits, second year 12 credits. First year 100%, to second year 66%. So to know the total cost, you should multiply this by approximately 1.6. This is going to be an academic cost of the whole program. But this is going to be the cost if you are actually doing the program in 2 years. If you are going to do the program in a year and a half, it's actually going to be lesser than this. But for the sake of budgeting, it makes sense for you to think of it in the worst case scenario. So if you are going to be doing your education for 2 years, your total academic fees is going to be 27422 into 1.66, or a little lesser than that. So 1.6 is going to be the figure. This is going to be cost number one. Cost number two. The second biggest cost that you're going to incur, and therefore you need to budget, is your living expenses. Depending on which location you are going to go to, the living expense can be anywhere from $550 to $950. So let us say you are going to spend about $800 or $850, and it is for 18 months, then you're going to multiply by 18. If you are going to be looking at 2 years, then you're going to be multiplying by 21. Or you will be completing 2 years is 21, all right? Because the last summers does not come into picture. This is going to be your living expense. So the third element is going to be your health insurance. Health insurance, you can assume at around $2,000 to $3,000 per year. So let's talk about $5,000. So this is going to be the total expense you are going to incur, assuming you do not get any scholarship, you are not getting any inflow of funds using part-time jobs, you are not getting anything else, including internship amount. But the fact of the matter is, because you are going for fall, you will get an opportunity to work full-time during the summers. The fact of the matter is, if you are good enough in the college among the top 20%, then you get a substantially good amount of, type of internship. For example, one of the students who has gone to UNBC, he is right now, this summers he interned in a company which was paying him $32 per hour. So the internship amount can be anywhere from $22 to $42, something of that nature. So what happens? What is the inflow that you will get on account of internship? Remember, this will be something that you will get during the summers. The rule says that you're allowed to work for 40 hours a week during summers. Let us say you get an internship for 2 months, then you are having 8 weeks. This is the number of hours. Multiply that by, let us say, $30. This is the amount that you will make. Normally, this comes to about 10 lakhs is what you will be earning during the internships. So 10 lakhs in terms of Indian rupee. So this is going to be a total expense. It's very important you plan for this. All this is something that it comes, save it, spend it, burn it, give it to your parents, that's your choice. But when you're budgeting, this has to be budgeted for. Now, I'm going to be doing something else. I'm now going to go to the next element where I'm going to be talking about for the visa. You will notice the fact that the living expense that has been mentioned here is the living expense that's mentioned here is an inflated living expense. It says for 9 months, you need to show $22,382. Now that's bullshit. We are Indians. We are thrifty. All right. We are not going to spend so much. But fact is, US government says, show me this amount. So for visa perspectives for living expenses, you will not be considering a living expense of $800 or $900. This is the amount that you need to show. So let's now go to the second element of what is visas. For visa purposes, what is the minimum amount you need to show? You need to show 49,804. This is according to the rule. For the visa purpose, you are supposed to show 49,804. The rule says, but that is not how the visa officers look at it. Visa officers tend to ask one question, which can be a big challenge. How are you going to fund your second year of education? Now, the moment you say part-time job, etc., bad news. So what is the funds that you should be showing during the visa interview? You should show the funds sufficient for the whole term. So what I'm going to recommend is into 1.6. This is the amount we will be showing during visa. This is the amount 249,804 into 2. So anything between 1.6 to 2 times, this is what you will show during the visa interview. That will make your visa chances higher. For a simple reason, you are telling the fact that, look, I don't need to depend on part-time job. Now the question comes, $100,000, 80 lakhs. Isn't it a big amount of money? Answer is yes. But do remember, this is not something that you're going to spend. This is only something that we will show. There are a lot of other questions that will come into picture now. I need to show $100,000. How did I get $100,000? I approximated this as 50,000 and I'm multiplying that by 2. Remember, you can even show $80,000. So let us say you want to show, however, $100,000. You want to be safe. Now, question number 1. Should I have that in the bank? Answer is no, you don't have to have them. This, for the visa purpose, is a combination of your debt and equity, your loan and your saving. Can I show the whole $100,000 as loan? Answer is yes, in theory, no in practice. The fact of the matter is you need to show them the fact that you have funds of your own. Why? Because visa people like people who come from rich backgrounds. So I normally say 30% of the amount that you're showing, try to show as your own funds. The rest you can show as from the loan. But I don't have 30%. I don't have the money. I have to depend 100% on the loan. What do I do? That is where this magic comes into picture. I'm going to go a bit slow, but this is very important to understand. I'm not going to be working with into 2 because into 2 is a critical concept. It's very high amount. We will talk about into 1.6, which is the amount that you will be spending for the whole program. So let us say my visa thing is 50,000. So 50,000 and I want to show 1.6. That means I want to be prepared for 80,000. Okay. What you can do is you can go to the bank and tell the bank that the project cost is equal to this into 2. Bank will fund the whole thing for the 2-year program. So you will say project cost is $100,000 to the bank. Bank will say, I'm going to give you 80% of this or 70% of this. So let us say bank says, I'm going to give 75% of this. Therefore, bank approves the loan of $75,000. You are supposed to show your amount of $25,000. But you don't have $25,000. So what do? We go to an agent. On the day of visa interview, we see to it the agent has kept this amount in our account. Yes, it helps if you have your own funds. That way, we don't just need to go to an agent. We can actually show them a bank statement where the money is there in account for a longer duration. But when you are not having funds, but you want to show to the visa officer that you have money, we will not show them 3-month bank statement. We will show a bank balance statement or a bank 1 week before your visa interview that we have $25,000 in the bank. It is not bank account statement for 3 months or 6 months. It's a bank balance statement on one given day, 1 week before the visa interview. And whose funds are they? The agents. In whose account are they? In ours. So we will show 25. We will get a bank loan of 75. We will show the fact that we have sufficient for $10,000, $100,000. But the beauty is, once you get the visa, remember your expenditure is not so much. Your expenditure is limited to this amount that we had discussed earlier, where it was what? 27, let's say this is 30,000. 30,000 into 1.6 is $48,000. And then you are spending, let us say $800 for 18 months. That is coming to $15,000. So the amount of expenditure really incurred is even less than 75, which means you can actually live only with the loan. Don't need to worry too much about your own funds. Okay, so this is the way you will play the game if you don't have funds. Now you might have a fraction of funds. Let us say you have $10,000 of your own. That means to the agent you don't need to go for 25. You can only go for $15,000. So such a game you will have to play because the system forces you to play that game. Okay, so I really hope you have understood 2 elements here. One, looking at I-20, understanding what is the early entry date, understanding how much it will actually cost you, understanding how much you need to fund it, how much from loan and how much from saving. Also understanding the fact that even if you don't have saving, then you still have to show the saving. And that is where you will probably have to depend on the agents. And again, here, be very careful with the choice of agent. Few agents are going to give you fake documents, simply no. Few agents are going to be seeing to it that the bank manager is also being managed, because if a phone call comes from the consulate, the bank manager has to be sensible enough to say, yes, the bank account is there, but not comment on the fact that, however, the money was immediately taken out. All right. So agency is not just about giving money, it's also about managing the bank manager. You need to only work with the agents whom you probably have worked in the past. If that is not the case, then please get in touch. We'll probably link you up with a few of the agents from whom our students have worked in the past. The reality is, fortunately or unfortunately, Indian system has a solution for every problem. But the reality is also that we also have a problem. All right. So we have to learn to live with this. Okay, so let's now go to the next point where we are talking about booking of the visa slot and what should we prefer. One of the questions that has been asked hundreds of times to me is, where should I prefer? The reality is, it is not location per se, it is a visa officer. I still remember some time back, Mumbai was very bad. There was one gentleman in particular who was tremendously giving out the rejections. If you go and do a little bit of Google research, you will notice the fact that he was a gentleman from the Northeast, giving rejections left, right, and center. To avoid that visa officer, we started recommending against Mumbai. Now, the next cycle, we continued to recommendation against Mumbai. We were fine with Delhi. What we did not know is that the visa officer had been sent from Mumbai to Delhi. So it's very tough, therefore, to share you what has happened in the past. Our best experience has been in Hyderabad. Hyderabad consulate has now been expanded. So our best experience has been Hyderabad. We have had good experience in Calcutta. We have had good experience in Chennai. We have had good experience in Delhi. Mumbai, not as much. But again, can't be said. Now, it's quite likely that you might have to book the visa slot with the help of an agent. Don't rush into it. For example, right now, guys, am I audible now? Am I you're visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. We had a signal issue here. Okay. I'm very sorry. My thought got interrupted. Okay, right now, of course, the visa slots are very comfortably available. At a later date, if it so happens that there's a demand, you are not able to get the visa slot, please go ahead with an agent. Again, please see to it that you're going to rely by agent. Agent will be very careful in documentation of your, the documents that have been submitted. An agent who will not fake, agent who will. We have had cases of certain students, agents not giving them the password back, etc. So please see to it that you are relying on agents whom you have worked in the past. If again you have a doubt, get in touch with Ms. Lakshmi. Okay, now I have also talked about how much loan you can get approved, but should it be a collateral loan or non-collateral loan? That depends on your financial standing. If it so happens that you do have assets, go for collateral loan. Collateral loans will be a little slow at getting it approved, but it's going to be cheaper for you. Now, from the visa perspective, does it matter whether it's collateral loan or non-collateral loan? Answer is yes. Collateral loan will have an advantage because it gives the comfort to the visa officer that you do have some assets in India. Okay, so yes, if you were to review the question that have been asked in the visa or interview in the past, one of the very common questions is about the loan, is it collateral or non-collateral? But we have also had a lot of students getting a non-collateral loan, getting the visa. So don't fret too much. But if it's a collateral loan, it's a good saving for you. I've also already talked about how much saving for visa and how to fund it. Remember, I told you around 25 to 30% of the total project cost. Show it as you're saving on the day of your visa interview. That is a safer case. I think I've covered most of the critical elements here. Now, what happens to a person who has applied early, got the visa early? The advantage is if you applied early, got the visa early, then you can immediately start writing to the professors. You can also, for TA, you can start writing to the professors for GA. Can you write to the professor for scholarships? Answer is no, because scholarship is something that is determined on the day of your application review. But TA, GA, RA, of course, you can write to them. But more importantly, remember, once you have accepted the offer, got the visa, you can start blocking the programs also, the classes. All right. Now, what happens in the US is the classes are offered by the professors. You need to book a seat in that. And if the seats are over, then you can't book that, take that subject. You'll have to take some other subject. So early getting visa is always a good news. Booking of accommodation is very important. I don't recommend accommodation within the campus because it's very expensive. I normally recommend it just outside the campus. Remember, all these colleges, you'll have a lot of accommodation outside the campuses. The best thing is for a few of you to come together to form a gang and block the accommodation. Now, early, you will have more options. You have better facilities. Now, if you were to get the visa slot late and then get the visa late, your choice of accommodation might be a challenge. In some cases, you might not actually get accommodation. We have had cases of students who are not getting accommodation and therefore forced to, defer the admit itself, because if you don't have accommodation, where the shit do you go? We will be assisting you on that front. Normally, what happens is once people start getting the visa, we start telling people, all right, there are these guys who have got the visa in the same college, would you like to get in touch? So if students are from the same college and there will be students in the same college, we'll keep you informed so that you can plan your accommodation and maybe your flight together. We can also help you in getting accommodation in quite a few places through our tie-ups. So in case you do need any assistance, you're welcome to it. But there are also quite a few websites which can help you out in that regard. But you need to be a little careful with the websites because the usual issues, photographs are beautiful. When you go there, the beauty doesn't stay there. All right, what is going to be the scenario for us forward? I'm going to be recommending you people to apply to I-20. In case you have a doubt, should you go ahead with something or should you hold a few days because we are expecting a result from some other college? Have a discussion with me, ping me in the WhatsApp, and I will see it that I'm quickly reviewing it and giving you the feedback. But I'm going to strongly recommend you to start booking the visa slot. Few of our students have already booked the visa slots. Once that is done, I will be sitting with you to start looking at your profile. This time, not from the college's perspective, from the visa's perspective. I'll be asking you a lot of questions on your family background. I'll be asking you questions on, your academics. Because in visa, a lot of questions come into picture. For example, you're moving from, let's say, mechanical engineering to data science. It is a red flag. It is explainable thing, but it's still a red flag. Your profile is good. You're going to a particular area, probably the college not in line with your profile. It's a red flag, and it's a very big red flag. You already have your brother or sister, own blood, own brother, sister in the US, a red flag. You have a cousin brother, red flag, but we can fake it. So yes, during the visa interview practice, I will be talking about elements where we can bluff and where we should not bluff. So please make it a point to attend those sessions as and when I conduct it as I go forward. I'll also be reviewing your funding. Please don't go and finalize the bank statement, the banking guys. Once you have an idea of the funding, share it with me. Let me quickly run through those numbers. If the number is fine, then go ahead and then lock it up and then get all the things processed. But please see with that. I see the numbers before you freeze it up, because too much loan is also a bad news. All right, high amount of loan will give them a thing that you will probably be forced to stay back in the US to repay that loan. So we need to balance that thing. One point which I did miss with the I-20 is this: the funding that you're showing during I-20 and the funding that you are going to show during the visa time, in all probability, will not be the same. Because remember, in some cases, in many cases, during I-20, we say, I have the money in my bank because agent's money is there in the bank. But when you go for the visa, you are substantially substituting a fraction of that with the bank loan. So don't get worried if the document of I-20 says something and the the document for visa says something. That is not something that you need to worry about. I'll also be having a mock interview with you to understand how you are prepared. Okay, now there are a few questions which have been asked in the recent past, so I've just listed them down. Post that, I'll open the floor for any of the questions that you have. Is completion of degree for attending the visa interview? Answer is no, of course not. It's not necessary. You have a visa, you have a US visa, visitor visa, B1, B2. Can you take advantage of drop-off facility? Answer is yes. Though this was something that was introduced only a year and a half back as a response to the COVID thing, they are still continuing with that benefit, so please do. But also be aware of the fact that Dropbox does not mean that you will not have a visa interview. They can still ask you for a visa interview, so be prepared for that. It doesn't matter to have multiple I-20s. You don't need multiple I-20s. If you have an admission in the college of your choice and you want to apply you already have an I-20 for that. One I-20 is okay. You don't have, you want A, but you have B. Can I get a B I-20 and then A I-20? Answer is yes. I have admission in A, B, C. Can I go ahead and get I-20 from all the three? Don't do that. Because in a way, you're making promises to multiple people. I will join, I will join, I will join. Don't do that. That's a negative. When you are going for the visa interview, you do not need multiple I-20s. All right. So you don't need multiple I-20s. Can we write for scholarship about external scholarship, etc.? Writing for scholarship, I have not seen any benefit come once you get the admission. But writing for TA and RA, I have seen students getting TA and RA. So that is something that you can write once you get the admission. Can I fight for external scholarship? You will find if you go to the Google, they will say that yes, US government is giving this scholarship, Indian government is giving that scholarship. Frankly, it's bull, it's bloody too competitive, too much hard work. They ask you to write bloody multiple essays, and frankly, output is not worth it. Can we go to visa interview without any loan? Yes, of course. If you happen to be the son or daughter of Tatas and Birlas, they are already in love with you, so you can flaunt that. Can I go without any saving? Remember, I said in theory, yes, in practice, no. So please see with that you are also having some amount of saving, preferably 30% at least. Now, this is where there's one more element that you need to understand. This is that element. I missed it. I'm going to go back to it. Funds and source of funds. These are two different issues. I have 10 lakhs. That is funds. How did you get 10 lakhs? That is source of funds. So if you are going to tell me that I have in my bank account 30 lakhs, I'm going to ask you a very simple question of who are your sponsors and what is their I-20s, what is their tax returns. So if you are saying you have 30 lakhs in your saving and if you're saying that your parental income is 5 lakhs, it doesn't make sense. If your parental income is 5 lakhs, probably in a year you save 25% of it, that is 1.5 lakhs or 1.25 lakhs. And then you say I have 30 lakhs, which basically means you have been ready saving for at least 22 years. It doesn't work out. So when I sit with you, I'm not just going to be talking about how much saving you are going to show. I'm also going to be asking you what is the source of saving, all right? How much is your father's income? How much is your mother's income? What proof you have for those? So both of them have to gel together. That is very, very essential. So remember two aspects, funds and source of funds. In the visa interview, they're going to see both the funds and the source of funds, and there should not be an illogical connect between the two. Can we bluff in the visa interview? Answer is yes and no. Certain aspects you can surely bluff, which they cannot check. Certain aspects you should not bluff, which they can check. Similarly, certain aspects which can impact materially in the long run, you should not bluff. Because remember the rule which I talked about earlier, the rule says if you have made an entry into any country by giving any false information or submitting any false document, then you can be deported anytime. That can be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So you need to be careful. This was the way the deportation took place from UK some time back for the copying that happened in TOEFL, where the deportation took place after 7 years. Yeah, 7 years, I think 11,000 Andhrites were deported. So the GRE at home and all that shit can happen at any time. Can funding be at I-20 stage and visa stage different? This is something which I've already discussed. Answer is yes, they can be different. In all probabilities, they will be different. Okay, so that was something which I wanted to discuss with you guys. Now I'm opening the floor. In case you do have any queries, fire those questions to me, please. Any questions, sweethearts? Guys, anyone raise your hands if you have. All right, can I at least get a confirmation you're able to hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any questions on anything, sweethearts? Raise
Yes,
your hands
sir.
and then. Yes, my dear. Any questions? Am I to pat my back that I have covered all your doubts in this session? Okay, don't worry about it.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
always. Yes, sweetheart. Any questions? Okay. I'll always be here for you guys, so don't worry too much. It is going to be a highly tension time for you people. I understand that. For many cases of your cases, we have anyway planned for backup countries as well. So I have worked on that side as well. Let's fight for it. Visa is not something that we can take. We can ever get rejected because that's going to be a very painful exercise, as I said earlier. So let's be well prepared for the same. That's it from my side now. If you have any queries, you know how to reach me. I do have one request. I see many of you pinging me privately. Please don't ping me privately. I don't normally get time to check all my WhatsApp messages. I get more than 400, 500 messages every single day. So what I normally do is I prefer those messages where the code is written. All right. So you might have the code F2272 or 2272 being your code. There, what happens is I get to check, I give obviously the first preference for that. More importantly, if I miss to see it, Deepti is there, or Lakshmi is there, they make it a point to remind me that all right, this I need to see. So please do not ping me privately. Always use either this channel to communicate with Deepti, me, or LKS, or the other channel which we have, the message bird channel that we have on communicating with anything to do with the application forms. All right. So similarly, don't ask me any questions which I've discussed in this. Please make it a point to review this video once more. You have a doubt after doing it, I will be there to help you guys. Do explain it to your parents too, because they need to understand the financial side of it. You need their support. They are also making equal sacrifices, if not more. So it's essential that we carry everything together. Bottom line, it is going to be stressful, but it's going to be beautiful if at the end of the day, the visa is possible. But bear in mind, on the day your visa is got, there'll be one statement which you have to carefully read. It says, getting the visa is no guarantee that you'll be allowed inside the US, because that decision is taken on the day of your immigration. So post getting the visa, there's one more fight that we need to fight, preparing ourselves for the visa or immigration entry. Again, there we will have issues of all the red flags. We will have issues of finances and all that, but that is a fight for another day. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me in, and let's continue to put this fight. Please see to it that you are booking your visa slots. There are a few questions being dumped here. Let me quickly open the chat. Okay, I have a question being asked, which says 70% in debt and 30% equal only in banks in India, or does it work in Prodigy Finance? I mean, can we take 100% from the international lenders? Sweetheart, you can take 100% of the international lenders, but do remember, we are not talking about taking from the banks. We are talking more from the visa perspectives. All right. If you remember the calculation where I talked about by inflating the project cost, I know that's not the way it should be done, but what happens if we don't have the savings? So you can still fund the whole education through loan. But when you're going for the visa side, it helps to show the fact that we have savings as well. But you are not actually going to use those savings later. Can I show $45,000 of a bank balance and $35,000 in non-collateral loan on the day of the visa interview? Answer is yes. However, Pradeep, I would like to understand how this $45,000 in bank balance is being shown. It has to be backed by the source of funds. So I would like to understand, who your sponsors are, what their annual incomes is, before saying whether these numbers are good in numbers to show. But as far as the equity debt ratio is concerned, you are showing more saving than bank, which of course is a good news. All right, because as I said, it shows the fact that you come from financially stable family, at least from the visa perspective. So it is good news, but again, this is funds. Source of funds is also something which I would like to check it out. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday of whatever is left. Thanks a lot, sweethearts.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you.